The database can meet the demands of a variety of users in the organization effectively only if it is maintained and managed properly. Usually, a person or a group of persons centrally located with an overall view of the database is needed to keep the database running smoothly. Such a person is often called the database administrator or DBA. In a large enterprise, a DBA should be assisted by an advisory committee that includes members from relevant units of the company. A DBA would normally understand the following: what data is in the database and where did it come from? What does the data in the database mean? How reliable, accurate, and authoritative is the data? If all enterprise applications that need the data are able to use it, who ultimately governs the definition, lifecycle, and use of data in the database? Given this understanding of the data, the DBA normally has a large number of tasks related to maintaining and managing the database. These tasks would generally include the following. First, developing the conceptual schema. The DBA, in consultation with senior management of the enterprise, may be responsible for defining the conceptual schema of the database. In some cases, this task may be the responsibility of Chief Information Officer of an enterprise if the enterprise has any. It may be necessary to make changes to the conceptual schema of the database periodically. The person who had responsibility for developing the initial conceptual schema should normally also be involved in making the changes to it. Second, deciding which DBMS to use. Once the conceptual schema has been decided, a decision regarding the DBMS to be used needs to be made. In some cases, the enterprise would have made this decision already, perhaps based on the previous experience of using a DBMS within the enterprise. In some cases, it may be appropriate to employ a database consultant to help in selecting a DBMS. Third, defining the database and loading the database contents. Once the DBMS has been acquired and installed, the DBA would be responsible for implementing the conceptual schema by defining the conceptual schema using DDL, that is data definition language, and then loading the data the enterprise initially wishes to load in the database. Loading the database often is an incremental process. Fourth, assisting and approving applications and access. The DBA would normally provide assistance to end users as well as programmers interested in writing the application programs to access the database. The DBA would also approve or revoke the access to the various parts of the database by different users. Fifth, deciding data structures. Once the database contents have been decided, the DBA would normally take decisions regarding the manner in which the data is to be stored and the indexes that need to be maintained. In addition, a DBA normally monitors the performance of the DBMS and makes changes to the data structure if the performance justifies them. In some cases, radical changes to the data structures may also be called for. Sixth, backup and recovery. Since the database is such a valuable asset, the DBA must make all possible efforts to ensure that the asset is not damaged or lost. This normally requires a DBA to ensure that regular backups of a database are carried out and stored off-site, and in case of failure, suitable recovery procedures can be used to reassemble the database with as little downtime as possible. And last but not the least, monitoring actual usage. The DBA monitors actual usage to ensure that the policies laid down regarding use of the database are being followed. The usage information is also used for performance tuning. There are many other tasks that a DBA often has to handle. This task may involve diagnosing, troubleshooting, and resolving any database related problems. The DBA also deals with database security in addition to managing user identification, authentication, and authorization.